The morning sun cast long shadows across the naval base as Lieutenant Sarah Chen adjusted her flight helmet for what would be her final test mission. She had no idea that within hours, her life would change forever, or that the nickname whispered in the corridors would become legendary among the most elite warriors in the world. Sarah had always been different. Growing up in a small Oregon town, she was the girl who climbed the highest trees, who could spot a hawk circling from miles away, and who never backed down from a challenge. Her parents, both immigrants who worked double shifts to make ends meet, had taught her that excellence wasn't optional. It was survival. At the Naval Academy, Sarah's exceptional eyesight and reflexes caught the attention of her instructors immediately. During flight training, she could identify targets that others missed entirely. Her vision was so sharp that medical tests had to be run twice to confirm the results. 20/10 vision was rare enough, but Sarah tested at 25, meaning she could see at 25 feet what most people could only see clearly at 20 feet. The pilots in her squadron started calling her Eagle Eye at first, but that changed during a particularly challenging training exercise over the Pacific. Sarah was flying reconnaissance when she spotted something that would save lives and earn her a new name. Commander Bradley Walsh was leading a formation of 6 FA-18 Super Hornets through a simulated combat scenario. The exercise was designed to test their ability to operate in hostile territory while avoiding enemy detection. What nobody knew was that a civilian fishing vessel had wandered into the training area, directly in the path of the incoming formation. The boat was small, barely visible against the vast ocean, and its radio wasn't working properly. The fisherman aboard had no idea he was about to become an accidental casualty in a military exercise. The formation was flying low and fast, communication protocols limiting their radio chatter to essential messages only. Sarah was flying parallel to the formation, her job to observe and report on their tactical decisions. Through her binoculars, she caught a glint of something that didn't belong. Most pilots would have dismissed it as sun reflection off the water, but Sarah's trained eye immediately recognized the distinctive shape of a small vessel. She had seconds to act. The formation was committed to their approach, and breaking radio silence could compromise the entire exercise. But if she didn't act, someone might die. "Falcon to lead," she transmitted, using the call sign that had just popped into her head. "Abort approach. Civilian vessel in target zone." Commander Walsh later said he had never heard such authority and certainty in a single radio call. Without hesitation, he ordered the formation to break off. When they circled back to investigate, they found the fishing boat exactly where Sarah had indicated, its owner completely unaware of how close he had come to disaster. That evening, in the ready room, Commander Walsh stood before the assembled pilots. "Today, Lieutenant Chen showed us what it means to have the eyes of a falcon," he announced. "From now on, that's what we'll call her, Falcon." The name stuck, but it was more than just recognition of her exceptional vision. Sarah had demonstrated something that couldn't be taught in any classroom, the ability to make split-second decisions under pressure, to see what others missed, and to act with unwavering confidence when lives were on the line. As word of the incident spread through the base, Sarah found herself being watched by people she didn't recognize. Men in civilian clothes would observe her training sessions, taking notes and speaking in quiet conversations with her superior officers. She didn't know it then, but her actions had been noted by a very particular group of people who specialized in impossible missions. 3 months later, Sarah received orders that surprised everyone, including herself. Instead of being assigned to a carrier air wing as expected, she was being transferred to a classified program at Naval Air Station North Island in California. The orders were signed by someone she had never heard of, and when she asked her commanding officer about it, he simply said, "Falcon, some opportunities only come once. Don't waste this one." The flight to California gave Sarah time to think about how dramatically her life had changed. She had joined the Navy to fly, to serve her country, and to prove that a girl from a small Oregon town could succeed anywhere. But this new assignment felt different, more secretive, more important somehow. Naval Air Station North Island was unlike any base Sarah had ever seen. The security was tighter, the personnel more serious, and there was an undercurrent of intensity that she couldn't quite identify. Her new commanding officer, Captain Jennifer Morrison, was a woman with kind eyes and a reputation for excellence that preceded her everywhere she went. "Lieutenant Chen," Captain Morrison said during their first meeting, "you're here because you see things others don't. That's valuable, but it's just the beginning of what we need from you." Sarah soon learned that she had been selected for a program that didn't officially exist. It was a joint operation between Naval Special Warfare and Naval Aviation, designed to provide unprecedented intelligence support to Special Operations Forces operating in hostile territory. The program, known only as Overwatch, required pilots who could operate alone, make instant decisions, and provide real-time intelligence to ground forces engaged in the most dangerous missions imaginable. It was support that could mean the difference between mission success and catastrophic failure. Her training began immediately and was unlike anything she had experienced. Physical conditioning that pushed her body to its limits, survival training in environments that seemed designed to break her spirit, and intelligence analysis that required her to think like both a pilot and a spy. But the most challenging part was learning to work with the people she would be supporting, Navy SEALs. The first time Sarah met members of SEAL Team 6, she understood why the selection process had been so rigorous. These weren't just elite soldiers. They were a different breed entirely. Every movement was precise, every word measured, and every glance seemed to assess potential threats and advantages. Chief Petty Officer Marcus Rodriguez was her primary point of contact with the SEAL team. A compact man with intense dark eyes and scars that told stories he would never share, Rodriguez had 20 years of special operations experience and had seen every kind of support imaginable. "So you're the new Falcon," he said during their first briefing. "We'll see what you're made of." The comment wasn't hostile, but it wasn't welcoming either. It was a simple statement of fact. Sarah would have to prove herself, just like everyone else who worked with the teams. Excellence wasn't assumed. It was demonstrated repeatedly under pressure when failure meant death. Her first mission came sooner than expected. Intelligence had identified a high-value target in a compound in Syria, and the window for action was closing rapidly. The mission required precise coordination between the SEAL team on the ground and air support that could provide real-time intelligence without being detected by enemy forces. Sarah would be flying a specially modified aircraft equipped with the most advanced surveillance equipment available. Her job was to be the eyes and ears for the team, to spot threats before they materialized, and to guide the SEALs safely to their objective and back out again. The briefing took place in a secure facility that looked like something from a science fiction movie. Maps, satellite images, and real-time intelligence feeds covered every surface. The mission planners had anticipated every possible scenario, but everyone in the room knew that plans rarely survived first contact with reality. "The target is here," the intelligence officer explained, pointing to a satellite image of a compound surrounded by high walls and guard towers. "Our asset will be the house on the northern side. Intelligence suggests he's being held on the second floor eastern room." Chief Rodriguez studied the images with the intensity of a man whose life depended on getting every detail right. "Guard rotations?" "Every 4 hours. Next rotation is at 0200 hours. "Falcon," Rodriguez turned to Sarah. "Your job is to keep us informed of any changes to that rotation, any additional personnel, and any vehicles approaching the compound. We go in fast and come out faster, but we need to know if the situation changes." Sarah nodded, feeling the weight of responsibility settling on her shoulders. This wasn't a training exercise. Real lives hung in the balance, and her ability to see and react quickly would determine whether everyone came home safely. The mission launched at midnight, with Sarah taking off 30 minutes before the SEAL team began their insertion. Flying alone through hostile airspace required a special kind of focus, the ability to compartmentalize fear and function at maximum efficiency despite the danger. As she approached the target area, Sarah began her surveillance pattern. The compound appeared exactly as briefed, with guards visible in the towers and a single vehicle parked outside the main gate. Through her advanced optics, she could make out individual faces and assess the alertness level of the guards. "Overwatch to ground team," she transmitted using encrypted communications. "Target area quiet. Guard positions as briefed. You are clear to proceed." The SEAL team moved like ghosts through the desert landscape, their progress tracked by Sarah's infrared cameras. Watching professionals at this level was like witnessing art in motion. Every movement had purpose, every decision was instantaneous, and the coordination was perfect. But 15 minutes into the insertion, Sarah spotted something that wasn't supposed to be there. A convoy of 3 vehicles was approaching from the northeast, still several minutes away but moving directly toward the compound. Sarah's enhanced optics revealed armed men in military-style clothing, and the lead vehicle mounted what appeared to be a heavy machine gun. "Ground team, this is Overwatch," Sarah transmitted immediately. 3 vehicles approaching your position from the northeast. Armed personnel. ETA approximately 8 minutes. Chief Rodriguez's response was immediate and calm. "Copy, Overwatch. Can you identify the vehicles?" Sarah adjusted her sensors, zooming in on the approaching convoy. Years of intelligence training had taught her to quickly assess threats and identify key details that could impact mission planning. 2 pickup trucks and 1 larger transport vehicle. Count approximately 12 personnel total. Heavy weapons visible on lead vehicle. They're moving with purpose, not casual patrol. The situation had just become exponentially more complicated. The SEAL team was already committed to their approach, just minutes from reaching the compound walls. Aborting now would mean losing their best opportunity to rescue the hostage, but proceeding meant facing superior numbers with limited escape options. Rodriguez made the decision that defined his leadership style. "We continue. Overwatch, I need continuous updates on that convoy. Time to contact with compound?" Sarah performed rapid mental calculations based on the convoy's speed and distance. 6 minutes, 40 seconds to compound perimeter. The next few minutes tested every skill Sarah had developed during her intensive training. She had to simultaneously track the SEAL team's progress, monitor the compound for any changes in guard behavior, and provide precise updates on the approaching threat. Through her infrared sensors, she watched the SEAL team reach the compound walls. Their movement was so precise and coordinated that they seemed to flow over obstacles like water, each team member knowing exactly where others would be without needing to communicate. "Overwatch to ground team. Convoy now 4 minutes out. Guard in Northwest Tower appears more alert, possibly responding to radio traffic." "Copy. We're going over the wall now." Sarah's heart rate increased as she watched 6 figures disappear into the compound. She was their only lifeline now, the only person who could see the complete tactical picture and warn them of threats they couldn't possibly detect from ground level. The convoy continued its approach, and Sarah noticed something that changed everything. The lead vehicle had stopped, and someone was using what appeared to be a radio or satellite phone. She adjusted her sensors to maximum magnification and saw the caller pointing toward the compound. "Ground team, urgent," Sarah transmitted. "Convoy has stopped. Individual using communications equipment while pointing at your location. I believe they have been alerted to your presence." Rodriguez's voice remained steady despite the deteriorating situation. "How long before they reach us?" "If they continue at current speed, 3 minutes. But Chief, they know you're there." The mission had become a race against time. The SEAL team had to locate and extract the hostage before the convoy arrived and trap them inside the compound. Sarah's role had evolved from observer to tactical coordinator, and she found herself making decisions that would directly impact the team's survival. Ground team, I have movement inside the compound. Multiple personnel moving toward the northern building. Appears to be a response to something. We've located the asset, Rodriguez replied. 30 seconds to extraction. Sarah watched through her sensors as the convoy suddenly accelerated toward the compound. At the same time, guards were emerging from various buildings within the compound walls, weapons ready. The situation was collapsing rapidly. Chief, you've got armed personnel converging on your position from 3 directions. Convoy will reach the compound in 90 seconds. Copy. We're coming out hot. What happened next would be talked about in classified briefings for years to come. Sarah made a decision that went far beyond her assigned role as an observer and intelligence provider. She had been trained to stay hidden, to avoid detection, and to never compromise her position. But watching the SEAL team face overwhelming odds changed all of her priorities. Ground team, I'm going to create a distraction. Prepare to move on my mark. Before Rodriguez could object, Sarah had banked her aircraft into a steep dive toward the convoy. She wasn't armed with weapons, but she had something equally valuable: surprise and the psychological impact of a military aircraft appearing out of the darkness. Flying at extremely low altitude, Sarah buzzed the convoy at high speed. The sound of jet engines at close range was deafening, and her aircraft's electronic systems created interference that temporarily disrupted the convoy's communications. The effect was immediate and dramatic. The convoy vehicles scattered, their occupants diving for cover and assuming they were under air attack. Radio chatter within the compound became frantic as guards tried to understand if they were facing a larger assault. Now, Chief, northern wall, 30 meters from the corner. The SEAL team emerged from the compound, carrying their rescued asset, moving with the same fluid precision that had taken them inside. Sarah maintained her harassment of the convoy, making repeated low passes that kept them pinned down and unable to organize an effective response. Overwatch, you are compromising your position, Rodriguez transmitted as his team reached their extraction point. Negative, Chief. I've got you covered until you're clear. For the next 10 minutes, Sarah flew a deadly game of cat and mouse above the Syrian desert. The convoy had reformed and was attempting to pursue the SEAL team, while reinforcements from the compound joined the chase. Sarah's job was to delay and confuse the pursuit long enough for the team to reach their helicopter extraction point. Using her aircraft's electronic warfare capabilities, she jammed radio communications and created false radar signatures that made it appear as if multiple aircraft were in the area. The enemy forces spent valuable time reacting to threats that didn't exist, while the real threat, 6 SEALs and their rescued asset, disappeared into the darkness. Ground team to Overwatch, Rodriguez finally transmitted. We are clear and en route to base. Thanks for the cover. Sarah's fuel was running low, and she had pushed her aircraft to its limits during the low-altitude maneuvers. But as she climbed to cruising altitude and set course for home, she felt a satisfaction that went beyond mission success. She had proven that her role was more than just observation. She was an integral part of the team. The debrief after the mission lasted for hours. Intelligence analysts wanted to understand every detail of the convoy's appearance and behavior. Mission planners wanted to know how Sarah had made her tactical decisions under pressure, and the SEAL team wanted to understand exactly what their new support asset was capable of. That was not part of your assigned mission profile, Captain Morrison observed during Sarah's individual debrief. No, ma'am, it wasn't, Sarah replied honestly. But the situation required adaptation. Chief Rodriguez says you probably saved his team's lives by creating that distraction. He also says you demonstrated tactical thinking that he's rarely seen from support personnel. Sarah wasn't sure if she was being praised or reprimanded. I saw an opportunity to help ensure mission success and took it. Captain Morrison smiled for the first time since Sarah had met her. Lieutenant, that's exactly what we hoped you would say. Your ability to see the complete picture and make independent decisions under pressure is precisely why you were selected for this program. Word of the mission spread quickly through the special operations community, but not in ways that Sarah expected. Instead of receiving formal recognition, she found that her reputation was growing through the informal networks that really mattered in the military. SEALs who had worked with her began requesting her specifically for their missions. Chief Rodriguez became her strongest advocate within the teams. Falcon doesn't just watch, he would tell other team leaders. She thinks, she adapts, and she's got your back when everything goes wrong. Over the following months, Sarah supported 17 more missions across 4 different countries. Each operation was unique, presenting challenges that couldn't be anticipated in training. And each time, Sarah found new ways to use her exceptional abilities to ensure mission success. There was the mission in Afghanistan where her ability to distinguish between thermal signatures saved a team from walking into an ambush. The operation in Somalia where her precise navigation guidance allowed a team to extract hostages during a sandstorm that had grounded other aircraft. And the counter-terrorism operation in Southeast Asia, where her real-time intelligence allowed a team to adapt their plan and capture a high-value target who had been moving between safe houses. But it was during a mission in Eastern Europe that Sarah's capabilities would be tested in ways she had never imagined, and where the SEAL teams would truly understand why she had earned the name Falcon. Intelligence had identified a weapons trafficking operation that was supplying advanced military equipment to terrorist organizations. The target was a warehouse complex in an industrial area outside a major city, and the mission was to gather evidence and disrupt the operation. What made this mission different was the urban environment and the presence of civilians. Unlike the remote compounds and desert locations where Sarah had previously operated, this target was surrounded by residential neighborhoods and busy commercial districts. The briefing revealed the complexity of the challenge they were facing. The target operates primarily at night, when most civilian activity has decreased, the intelligence officer explained. But we're still looking at a high-density population area with multiple potential complications. Sarah studied the satellite imagery and aerial photographs with new eyes. Urban operations required a completely different approach to surveillance and threat assessment. Instead of looking for vehicles approaching across open desert, she would need to identify threats hidden among normal city traffic and civilian activity. Falcon, Rodriguez addressed her during mission planning. We need to know about everything that moves within a 5-block radius of that warehouse. Police patrols, late-night deliveries, homeless individuals, anyone who might complicate our operation or pose a security risk. The mission launched at 2 in the morning local time, with Sarah beginning her surveillance pattern 40 minutes before the SEAL team's insertion. Flying over a major city at night was like looking down at a constellation of lights, each one representing human activity that could impact their operation. Through her sensors, Sarah began building a real-time picture of the area around the warehouse. She identified 2 police vehicles on routine patrol routes, a late-night delivery truck servicing a convenience store 3 blocks away, and what appeared to be a homeless encampment in an abandoned building across from the target. Overwatch to ground team. Target area shows normal nighttime activity. No immediate threats identified. The SEAL team began their approach through city streets, moving from shadow to shadow with the same precision they had demonstrated in remote locations. But urban environments presented unique challenges, and Sarah's role became even more critical. Ground team, police patrol vehicle turning onto your street from the north. Recommend you hold position for 30 seconds. Sarah watched the police car cruise slowly down the street, its occupants scanning for anything unusual. The SEAL team had melted into the shadows so completely that they seemed to disappear, and the patrol passed without incident. Clear to proceed. As the team reached the warehouse complex, Sarah noticed something that immediately raised her alert level. The building that intelligence had identified as likely abandoned was showing heat signatures consistent with human occupation. Ground team, be advised. Building across from target shows multiple heat signatures. Count 4 to 6 individuals, second floor, eastern side. Copy. Continue monitoring. The SEALs began their infiltration of the warehouse, and Sarah shifted her primary attention to the surrounding area. It was during this broader surveillance that she noticed a pattern that would change everything about the mission. Vehicles were arriving at predetermined locations around the warehouse complex in a coordinated pattern that suggested advanced planning and surveillance. Sarah recognized the signs of a counter-surveillance operation, the kind used by professional intelligence services and sophisticated criminal organizations. "Ground team, urgent," Sarah transmitted. "Multiple vehicles positioning around your location. This appears to be coordinated. I count 6 vehicles total, positioned to cover all exit routes." Chief Rodriguez's voice carried a new edge of concern. "How long have they been arriving?" Sarah reviewed her recorded surveillance data, her mind working rapidly to piece together the timeline. First vehicle arrived 8 minutes ago, positioned 2 blocks north. Second vehicle 3 minutes later, covering the eastern approach. The pattern suggests they knew we were coming. The mission had been compromised, but the SEAL team was already inside the warehouse and committed to their objectives. Extracting immediately would mean losing critical intelligence about the weapons trafficking network, but staying meant facing a trap that could result in casualties or capture. Rodriguez made the tactical decision to continue the mission while adapting to the new threat environment. "We proceed, but we need a new extraction plan. Falcon, I need options." This was the moment that would define Sarah's career and demonstrate why her unique abilities made her invaluable to special operations. While most people would see an impossible situation, Sarah's exceptional vision and tactical thinking allowed her to perceive opportunities that others would miss. She began analyzing the urban environment with the intensity of a chess master planning multiple moves ahead. Every building, every street, every vehicle became part of a complex puzzle that she needed to solve in real time. "Chief, the counter-surveillance team is positioned for a standard containment operation, but they're focused on vehicle traffic patterns. They haven't accounted for alternative extraction methods." "What are you thinking, Falcon?" Sarah had spotted something during her initial surveillance that most people would have dismissed as unimportant. 3 blocks from the warehouse, construction work on a high-rise building had created a flat staging area that could serve as an improvised helicopter landing zone. "Construction site, 3 blocks southwest of your position. Clear landing area, minimal civilian exposure, and it's outside the containment perimeter." "That's a long way to travel through hostile territory. Not if we create the right kind of distraction." What Sarah proposed next would push the limits of what was considered possible for a single pilot, providing support to a ground team. She would coordinate a complex deception operation while simultaneously guiding the SEAL team through an urban environment filled with threats. "I can create multiple diversions that will draw the counter-surveillance team away from your extraction route, but I need precise timing on your movement." The plan that emerged from the next few minutes of rapid coordination was ambitious beyond anything previously attempted. Sarah would use her aircraft's electronic warfare capabilities to simulate communications, suggesting that multiple teams were operating throughout the city. She would create false heat signatures using flares and electronic countermeasures, and she would time these diversions to draw enemy forces away from the SEAL team's escape route. "Ground team, are you ready to move?" "Affirmative. We have the intelligence we came for." Sarah began executing her deception plan with the precision of a conductor leading a symphony orchestra. Her first diversion targeted the Northern Containment Team, using electronic jamming to disrupt their communications while dropping flares that simulated the heat signature of personnel moving through a residential neighborhood. Overwatch to ground team. Northern team is moving to investigate. You have a clear corridor to the construction site. The SEAL team emerged from the warehouse and began moving through the city streets, with Sarah providing continuous updates on enemy positions and safe routes. Her ability to track multiple moving targets while coordinating diversions required a level of multitasking that pushed her training to its limits. 3 vehicles converging on your previous position. They're realizing the northern heat signatures were false. How long until they figure out our actual position? Sarah's answer demonstrated the tactical intelligence that had made her legendary among the teams. Depends on how professional they are. If they're former military, maybe 5 minutes. If they're just well-equipped criminals, we have longer. As the SEAL team moved through the urban landscape, Sarah continued creating diversions that kept their pursuers off balance. She used her aircraft's radar to track every vehicle in the area, while simultaneously jamming enemy communications and creating false electronic signatures. The construction site appeared ahead of the SEAL team, just as Sarah detected new movement that changed everything about their extraction plan. Ground team, helicopter approaching from the southeast. Military aircraft, armed configuration. The counter-surveillance operation had been more sophisticated than anyone had anticipated. What they faced wasn't just a criminal organization with good security. It was a professional military unit with air support. Rodriguez's voice carried the calm determination that had earned him the respect of every operator he had ever worked with. Options? Falcon? Sarah's response would be remembered by everyone who heard it as the moment they truly understood why she had earned her reputation. I'm engaging the helicopter. Continue to extraction point. Before anyone could object, Sarah had pushed her aircraft into a steep climb toward the approaching enemy aircraft. What she was about to attempt had never been tried by a reconnaissance pilot in a lightly armed aircraft facing a military helicopter designed for combat. Sarah's aircraft wasn't built for air-to-air combat, but it had advantages that she intended to exploit. It was faster, more maneuverable at high altitude, and equipped with electronic warfare systems that could disrupt enemy targeting systems. The enemy helicopter pilot was clearly experienced and immediately recognized the threat that Sarah represented. What followed was an aerial duel above a major city that pushed both pilots to the limits of their skills and aircraft capabilities. Sarah used her superior speed to maintain distance, while her electronic warfare systems degraded the helicopter's targeting capabilities. Every time the enemy pilot attempted to lock onto her aircraft, her countermeasures created false returns and electronic noise that disrupted his weapons systems. Overwatch, you need to disengage, Rodriguez transmitted from the ground. We're at the extraction point. Negative. This guy will hunt down your extraction helicopter if I don't neutralize him. The aerial combat continued for what felt like hours, but was actually less than 3 minutes. Sarah's tactics were unconventional but effective. Instead of trying to destroy the enemy aircraft, she was systematically degrading its ability to function as a weapon. Her final gambit was inspired by the Falcon that had given her the nickname. Instead of continuing to run from the helicopter, she suddenly reversed course and dove directly toward it at maximum speed. The helicopter pilot, expecting Sarah to continue evading, was caught completely off guard by her aggressive maneuver. As Sarah's aircraft screamed past at close range, her electronic warfare systems delivered a concentrated burst of interference that temporarily blinded the helicopter's sensors and damaged its navigation systems. Ground team, enemy air asset is neutralized. Your extraction helicopter is clear to approach. The helicopter pilot, flying blind with damaged systems, was forced to make an emergency landing in an open area outside the city. Sarah had effectively removed him from the battle without firing a shot. As the SEAL team's extraction helicopter arrived at the construction site and the team climbed aboard, Sarah maintained overwatch to ensure they departed safely. It wasn't until their aircraft was clear of the city and en route to base that she finally allowed herself to relax. The debrief after this mission was unlike any that Sarah had ever experienced. Representatives from Naval Special Warfare Command, Naval Aviation, and even senior officials from other government agencies wanted to understand exactly what had happened over that city. Lieutenant Chen, Admiral Rebecca Martinez, commander of Naval Special Warfare Command, began the formal session. What you accomplished during this mission represents a new paradigm in special operations support. The investigation that followed revealed that the weapons trafficking operation had been backed by a hostile foreign intelligence service, and the counter-surveillance operation had been conducted by military contractors with extensive special operations experience. Sarah had not just supported a successful mission, she had prevented an international incident. Chief Rodriguez's after-action report became required reading at the Naval War College. Falcon demonstrated the ability to adapt her tactics in real time, coordinate complex operations under extreme pressure, and make tactical decisions that saved American lives, he wrote. Her combination of exceptional vision, tactical intelligence, and aggressive initiative represents the future of special operations support. But the true measure of Sarah's impact came from the requests that began arriving at Captain Morrison's office. SEAL teams, Delta Force operators, Marine Raiders, and other special operations units all wanted to work with the pilot they called Falcon. "You've become something of a legend," Captain Morrison told Sarah during their quarterly review. "The teams trust you in ways they've never trusted support personnel before." Sarah's response reflected the humility that had kept her grounded despite her growing reputation. "I just do what needs to be done to bring everyone home safely." Over the next 2 years, Sarah would support 43 more missions across 6 continents. She would prevent an international hostage situation in Africa, provide critical intelligence that disrupted a nuclear smuggling operation in Asia, and coordinate a rescue operation that saved the lives of captured American intelligence officers. Each mission added to her legend, but Sarah never forgot the lesson that had started her journey. Excellence wasn't optional, it was survival. And for the men and women who operated in the shadows to protect their country, Sarah had become their guardian angel, watching from above with the eyes of a falcon. The nickname that had started as recognition of her exceptional vision had evolved into something much more significant. To the special operations community, Falcon represented more than just keen eyesight. It represented the combination of vision, intelligence, courage, and dedication that defined the very best of American military service. Years later, when Sarah had been promoted to commander and was training the next generation of special operations support pilots, she would tell them, "Anyone can learn to fly an aircraft. Anyone can learn to use surveillance equipment. But seeing what others miss and acting when action is required, that's something that comes from here," she would say, pointing to her heart, "not from here," pointing to her eyes. The program that Sarah had helped to develop became the gold standard for special operations aviation support. Pilots trained in her methods supported operations around the world, and the techniques she had pioneered saved countless lives in situations where conventional support would have failed. But to the SEALs, Rangers, and other special operators who had worked with her, Sarah would always be simply Falcon, the pilot who had redefined what it meant to have someone watching over you, who had proven that the right person in the right place at the right time could change the outcome of impossible situations. The morning sun cast long shadows across the training facility as Sarah watched a new class of pilots preparing for their first simulation exercises. They were eager, confident, and skilled. But they didn't yet understand that technical competence was just the beginning of what would be required of them. "Your job," she told them during their first briefing, "isn't just to observe and report. Your job is to be part of the team, to think ahead of the situation, and to ensure that everyone comes home safely. The men and women you'll be supporting are depending on you to see what they can't see and to act when action is required. One of the young pilots raised his hand. Commander, how do you know when to break protocol and take initiative? Sarah smiled, remembering the first time she had made that choice over the Syrian desert. When lives are on the line and you see an opportunity to make a difference, protocol becomes secondary to mission success. But, she added seriously, you have to be absolutely certain of your capabilities and completely committed to the consequences of your actions. As the sun climbed higher and the training exercises began, Sarah reflected on the journey that had brought her to this point. She had started as a girl from a small Oregon town who could climb high and see far. Through dedication, training, and the willingness to push beyond what others thought possible, she had become something that the military had never seen before, a guardian angel with the eyes of a falcon and the heart of a warrior. The nickname had stuck because it captured something essential about who Sarah Chen was and what she represented. In a world where precision, courage, and split-second decisions meant the difference between life and death, she had proven that the right person with the right skills could change everything. And in the quiet moments between missions, when she looked up at the sky and watched real falcons circling overhead, Sarah knew that she had found exactly where she belonged, watching over others, seeing what they couldn't see, and ensuring that America's finest warriors always had someone looking out for them from above.